Okay, we are live. Hi, everyone, and welcome to our Angelella Editorial Craft Chat on YouTube and via podcast. We are here today to talk with a few of our editors about the very elusive topic of finding time to write. If everybody could just briefly introduce themselves and talk a little bit about what your writing schedule is like and how you find time to write. Jenn, do you want to
Sorry. I'll start because you can cut me out if my Wi-Fi goes sideways. If you're watching on YouTube, I'm not here visually because I have limited bandwidth. I'm in the wilds of northern Michigan on vacation, but I still find time to write. My normal schedule when I'm working is I work from home, so I might be doing some editing, and then I usually write in the afternoon. That's where I'm doing revision. But when I'm drafting, I have a method that really works for me. I think it would work for anyone who's just trying to get started. And this was born of frustration when I was in grad school, and I was finishing up my program, and I was so deep in writing, and I had to come up with 20 new pages for a workshop. And I knew I did not want to do what I had done in previous semesters, which is try and bang out 20 original pages in the 5 days between turning in my homework and getting a response. So I said, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to take 15 minutes every morning for 6 weeks. And I started 6 weeks before the due date. And I had an idea I was playing with. And so every morning I would get up, make my tea, feed my cats, because you can't write with hungry cats hanging around. And I would sit down for 15 minutes and write by hand this new idea. And I've come to really love this method for drafting because I can find 15 minutes, whether it's in the morning, whether it's in the evening. You make it part of a routine. It's a routine. I make my tea, I feed the cats, I sit down and I write. And if I only write 2 words, well, I've only wasted 15 minutes, but I've still got 2 more words than I had yesterday. It gives me a chance to, if I get stuck, that gives me the rest of the day to kind of think about, okay, what will come next? And think about that in the back of my mind. And then the other thing I like about it is even if I'm working on revising a major project, this gives me 15 minutes to play with something new. So I call it cheating. I'm married to the novel I'm revising, and it's hard work sometimes, and it's a real slog, but in the morning I get to cheat with my boyfriend project, and which isn't so hard because I'm just drafting, and I can just barf it out. It's 15 minutes. I know it's going to be crap, and it just lets me get it out. So I think that anyone can find, even if it's 5 minutes or 10 minutes, just find a way to make it part of your routine. And I've been doing this for about 2 years now. I've completed 1 novel. I'm 11 chapters into a second novel. It works, just little by little.
That's great. I love the little by little method, and curious how many words do you typically get out of that? What's like a pretty normal session for you?
So if I had my video on, you could see I have a little notebook because I write by hand, and the notebook is probably 5 by 7, and I'll usually get a page in the 5 by 7 if it's a good day. If it's a bad day, maybe it's just a paragraph. But I will usually turn in a chapter in about 10 to 12 days, depending on how good it's going. Sometimes it's not so good. And there are days that I do take breaks. Like I'm on vacation right now. I've given myself permission to just take a break entirely from writing. But there are days, like if I have a doctor's appointment in the morning, I'll skip it. But usually 6 out of 7 days a week, I am writing.
That sounds good. And I'm a big fan of the cumulative process of looking at your writing. I think sometimes we hear it takes me a week to write a chapter, it takes me whatever. And we think, oh, I wish I could get more in every day and get more done faster. But the thing is, I think a lot of people do feel daunted by the task of sitting down and writing a whole bunch of words. And it's like that overdue library book scenario where it's so overdue that you're like afraid to go back and return it. And it just keeps it going longer and longer. And the more overdue it is, the less you feel that you can bring yourself to return it.
Because you owe $300 for the cat in the hat. Well, the other thing I like is that 15 minutes a day, but because I'm doing it longhand, I feel that frees your brain to work in different ways. But it also, when you're writing by longhand, you can't go back and edit. You can maybe cross out a couple of words, but it keeps you moving forward. And that's what I find is really helpful, because I know some people have the tendency to just work on that first chapter and over and over. And I'm like, revising is for later. This is for drafting. 15 minutes a day, crap it out, keep moving forward.
That's beautiful.
I think that's huge, is let yourself play. You're going to get stuck. You're going to get mired, and then you're not going to want to come to the writing page. If all you're thinking about is that you've got to get that exactly right. And I think that is hugely important. If it's okay, I'll jump in because it kind of feeds on that. So this is Jenn Bailey. Hi. You can find me all the places on Jenn Bailey, at Jenn Bailey. But I also love to put pencil to paper or pen to paper. There's a different thing that happens, I think, in those initial draft stages when you're actually going by hand. At least for me, I like tactile things. But I would say that I probably count a lot of things as writing that maybe others might not count as writing, but it helps my self-esteem. So I call it priting, maybe. It's a bit of pre-writing. So I've been playing in card flow lately, which is combining that. I don't know if it's on the iPad. So this was one of my things on card flow. So we'll go into, this was a book that I was doing. And you just put everything out on these index cards. But this was my writing for the day, one day. And it was because I needed to figure out and for people on the podcast, sorry, it's a sketch. I just sketched my main character. I wanted to get a sense of who he was, where he was, what he saw. And I'm no illustrator, but yeah, it was just a whole lot of fun to kind of sketch my little character and what I saw the opening of the story being. And from that, it just took off. It really helped me focus in, and yet that was my writing for the day. It was for me, character development, setting, point of view, all of that I tackled in a sketch, and I consider that writing.
And I think it is, Jen.
Too. Yeah.
I think it is writing. Yeah. Well, because I think that we don't give enough stock to the thinking that goes along with writing, It's like writing is the actual fingers on the keyboard. I'm Denise, by the way, Denise Santomauro. You can find me in all the places. There's another Denise Santomauro who's really into wolves who lives in Italy. That's not me. If you Google me, you might. Wolves, yeah, but you might see a lot of wolves. When you Google my name, you see a lot of wolves. Wolves are great, but anyway, tangent. But there's a lot of thinking that goes into writing and processing. I call it the staring out the window technique, where sometimes writing for me is that it's just staring out the window. And, getting back to your original question, Kate, I work like 17 jobs. I'm often not at home because I'm out, doing work for this company over here, that organization there, or teaching over here. So for me, things like being able to sit on the train and like not read a book. I live in a city, so I take public transit often, but I don't read a book sometimes. I don't make notes or anything. I'll just sit and I'll stare at the window and I'll think. I'll think about my book. I'll think about the thing I need to write. I'll think about the thing I need to do. And that allows me, when I do come back to the page, to actually have time to just do it, because I've now thought through it. I've processed what needs to happen, and then I can just jump in and actually do it when I get back to the page. That said too, giving yourself deadlines, but giving yourself accountability, I think, is also a way to find the time. Because we all are crazy busy, right? It's just the way society sets us up. We're all so insanely busy, but you find the time when you actually have to. So how can you keep yourself accountable? Is there somebody that you have pages that are going to be due to every month that are going to send you pages to? Do you hire an editor just to make sure that you actually stay on it, to do like an author coaching or something along those lines where you can actually have somebody who you're accountable for? And I guarantee you, if you have some money in the game, or if you have somebody else you're accountable to, you'll find the time. You'll be like, oh, I could sit here and for the next hour watch, reruns of Project Runway, or I could go spend an hour on my book, and not to say that time isn't important too. The downtime is very, very important. But I do think that we need a whole day or a whole week to be able to do something. And oftentimes I've seen this in people I've worked with. I've seen this with other artists in general, not even just writers, but sometimes when you have too much time, it actually the opposite happens. You're like, I've got plenty of time. And then you don't do anything because you're like, I'll do it tomorrow because I got time tomorrow. Instead, today, I'll rearrange my living room. And then you just procrastinate.
I think there's something to be said for setting a routine or giving yourself a reward, actually. You promise yourself, okay, if I have a week where I spend 15 minutes a day, then at the end of that week, I deserve a special treat at the cupcake place down the street. So if you haven't found a critique partner and you don't have the money to hire an editor, you can reward yourself that way as well. You can try and motivate yourself with a reward. So the carrot and the stick both work.
I mean,
and I would say
knowing. Oh, sorry, Jen.
No, it's okay.
I think it's partly knowing yourself too, like knowing who you are and what motivates you. Because, like Diane, you say that, and I'm like, man, Diane has amazing willpower.
Because I love that cupcake now.
That cupcake sounds really good. You know what? I'm just gonna go give myself a cupcake. Like, I have no willpower. I'm terrible at it. Like, I so admire people who can do that. I personally need somebody else I'm accountable to. Usually that's what I've found for me. But that said, I think you're right, Diane. I think that what you're getting at there is like, who are you and what motivates you? Because if you have something like, if you know I'm gonna wait for that cupcake and I know I'll wait for that cupcake, then you do that. If I know, like, I'm going to pay myself, I'm going to make this into my job, and I'm going to pay myself, even if nobody else is paying me. I'm going to give myself $10 at the end of the week if I get these pages done. I'm going to be way more motivated to find the time to get that done.
And I
just want to clarify, if it was...
What I was going to say is about this job thing, right? We're told dress for the job you want, right? Well, I'm going to say show up for the job you want. It's if you're not taking your writing seriously, why should I take it seriously as your editor? Why should an editor or an agent take it seriously? Why, I hate to say this, but why should your significant other take it seriously? If you're treating it as this every now and again dream that, I'm going to be a writer someday, well, darn it, today's the day, and make it your job. And that doesn't mean that it has to be stop the other jobs, because like Denise, I have about 52 jobs. But you need to realize that writing is one of them. And so writing gets just as much attention, gets just as much of your professional attention, gets just as much of your serious brain as those other bits of work do. And, if you're the type of person who works better with the stick, well, you don't want that performance review coming up, man, saying, you didn't show up for work for a month. Hello. It really is, treat it professionally, treat yourself professionally, that this is a job that you're looking for, and get going on it.
And look, go ahead, Diane.
I was going to say, you can find groups like on Facebook or other social media where they have like 5 a.m. writing club, or they'll have let's do word sprints. So you can even connect with people online to say, you're accountable to each other. We're going to work together. We're going to write for half an hour. And at the end, we're going to report to each other. That's how much work we've done. And I just want to clarify that if the reward were a cupcake, I would not have willpower. I just used that as an example I thought most people could understand. For me, it would be like a trip to the yarn shop for a reward.
Well, and I think too, there's something to be said for, bouncing off of what you were talking about, Jen, of this being your job and the finding the time. Like, look, I've had full-time jobs where I've been working 40 hours a week, sometimes a little bit more, and trying to find time to write. And it is not easy. It's really, really not easy. Part of the reason I have 15 jobs is so that I can figure out a way to write. It really is. There's been multiple times where full-time jobs have been offered to me and I've had to say, no, this is something that is important to me, right? But that to say, that's not an option for everybody, right? Sometimes you have to be working a full-time job. You have to be reporting to somebody else every single day at a specific time. And in those instances, I would say that finding your place, right? There are people I know who do that, and then this Saturday and Sunday mornings, that is their time to write. And everybody in their life knows it. They communicate it to their spouse or their significant other. They communicate to their families, to their friends. I'm not available. I'm working during these times. There are other people who get up and write. And I did this for a year. I finished a book this way. I got up and wrote from 5:30 to 6:30, 7 o'clock every day, Monday through Friday, and then would go to work. Because I knew if I got it done at the beginning, it's like working out. Like I needed to get it done at the beginning of the day or I wasn't going to do it. So I think that, again, going back to knowing yourself and what you need, if you need to be working a full-time job, I'm not sitting here suggesting that you go quit your job to go write and not
Don't quit your job.
Don't quit your job. You're not going to make any money as a writer either, probably, right? So instead, figuring out, maybe for some people it's that early morning, right? Like I know I need that usually because I have other things that will distract me. And then even when I sit down to write at 9 o'clock at night, my brain is still thinking about all those other things. So I try to get it done before so I don't have to worry about it the rest of the day, right? There's other people who prefer, like who maybe have kids. And so it's like post bedtime, that is their time to sit down and actually do the work, right? So I think that it's about knowing your life and knowing that, I think sometimes when I hear these advice of like, I wrote every day and I wrote, I got up at 3 a.m. to write. And it's like, well, yeah, if you have 3 kids though you're trying to raise, like that's insane. And oftentimes we're getting those through, unfortunately, not to get too, into this, but we're getting that from a privileged white male perspective. That's not the case for most people. So being able to know your life and what you need to be able to function with your family and with your finances, and then say, okay, yes, this is my job too. How can I fit this into these other things that I need? And then making it a priority and communicating that to the people in your life.
Well, and I think being flexible too. I mean, understanding that what you did for a year might not work for the next year. Remember that, your lives are changing. Maybe you've got a new kidling on the way, or maybe this is going on. I will be honest of what happened to me this year. I found myself, I was not writing. I was so ramped up in needing to support my family that the idea of the next book was, it was money, but it was money that was too far in advance, too far down the road, and I needed money now. So I needed to do a lot of work. Well, I finally got to a place where I was able to wrap up some of those projects, and I kind of took 3 weeks off. I let my brain rest for 2 of those weeks, and the third week, I got to tell you, was unbelievably productive. I worked on 2 picture books and resolved an issue with one of my novels. And so giving myself a break, a 2-week, don't think about anything break, because what was happening was I was beating myself up. After a day of editing and a day of stuff with book launch and stuff, it was kind of like I had no creative spark to get anything done, and I was making myself miserable about that. So I needed to be nice to myself.
Definitely. I mean, that's important. I do this daily writing when I can, but I give myself permission to occasionally miss it, because all work and no play. That's the right thing for a writer. If you don't go out and live life and get experience that way, what are you bringing to your writing? So you have to give yourself permission for a little bit of self-care and give yourself a break. I mean, I wish I could give you my video. I'm at a lakeside, outdoors, blue skies, blue water, lots of family. And when I get back to work, I'm going to feel so much better.
Yeah, it was rejuvenating. It's like I spent a week with family on the beach, and then I spent a week just not really doing much much else. I read, which was delightful, to read up on some books that I'd wanted to get under my belt that I'd heard so much about, and it was like just don't stress it. And what was fascinating was there were some incredibly stressful things going on during those 3 weeks with family, but because I was able to focus there and not be distracted by, oh, I didn't get my pages done. It's like, no, we're going to get there. You've given yourself week 3 is your week to go and to retreat. But I needed to mentally and physically get into a place where I was ready for that. And it worked. It worked wonders. And so, yes, get your work done. Don't beat yourself up if you don't, but don't make it a habit. Make the writing the habit. And just do a reset. It was a hard reboot for me, and it worked.
Well, and I think, Jen, what you're pointing out there too is an opportunity to also see, is this the project you should be working on right now? Because I think sometimes when you do take a break and you come back to something and you're like, actually, this is part of the reason I've been procrastinating working on this, is because I don't really want to work on it. And some of that is like, I don't want to work on it because I reached the hard parts and I don't want to work on the hard parts. But some of it is like, there's just, this project isn't working. And I have this other thing that I have been working on that is working. And so I should move my focus and attention there. And sometimes that alone will get you actually back to writing, because you're excited about it then and you want to work on it and you can't wait to come back to it. I similarly took a break. Mine was much longer. But I took a break this spring because I had a million gigs. I also financially needed to figure some stuff out and knew I was going to be crazy, crazy busy. So I took a break. And when I finally was able to come back, and for me, it was like several months, I was really excited. I couldn't wait to get back to it. I couldn't wait to dig my hands back into it again, which showed me that like, this is a project I need to see to completion. I need to actually finish this project. But I think it can be a really good thing to take a break. But yeah, again, give yourself that like, nope, this is when I'm coming back.
Right.
This is what's going to, and look at your schedule. Be real with your schedule. Don't plan to come back a couple days before you're about to go on vacation. Don't plan to come back when you have a big deadline due.
I think that's a good point and what I'm hearing a lot of everyone saying is, in addition to know yourself, know your needs, know your priorities, and also be good to yourself. This is not supposed to be a punishing thing, and there's nothing more impeding to creativity than a punishing, systematic type of thing. Like routine is good until it's not. And I think also it's good to have a contingency plan. I'm speaking from my experience. I have a 15-month-old at home. I have my own business and I'm editing full time. So I'm working more than 40 hours a week on my own stuff. I don't have childcare except for, between 4 to 8 hours a week, depending on when my husband is working, because he's a professor. He does not have to leave home for the summer work that he does. But it's weirdly the best thing that's ever happened for my writing schedule is having a baby, because I don't have time to sit in front of my computer and go, this isn't quite the right word. Maybe I'll search around and play with a cadence, and this is not what you're supposed to do in a first draft. So it's, for the last 2 years, I've been sitting on 45,000 words of a novel that I care so deeply about and just didn't prioritize. Now that I have a child, I knew that if I didn't find a way to prioritize it and fit it into my schedule, it was never going to get written ever. And I did what Denise said. I hired a writing coach to whom I am responsible for 10,000 words a month. And without that, I would not have any words a month. and honestly, I was able to get into a routine enough with it at a certain point that it kind of developed its own momentum. And I eventually even contacted my coach and was like, I'm so close to the end. I just want to finish this at this point, and then I'll send it to you. afterwards, but I have, since February, I have added 45,000 words, and I have done that. So I'm at 90,000 words right now, and I have done that by writing during my child's morning nap. That's the only time I have to write. And it feels like a ticking time bomb. I've got my monitor on one side of me, my coffee on the other side, and I literally, like, we get him down to sleep, and I text my husband, who is also a writer from the nursery, and I'm like, go, 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 just pour the coffee, it's time, he's asleep. So we have anywhere between 30 minutes and an hour and a half to write, and we never know what day is going to be what. So there is no procrastinating by looking stuff up online. There is no research while I'm writing. There is no toiling over word choice or going back 20 pages to find that character's name I can't remember. It's filled with brackets and mean notes to myself, and it's sloppy, and it's totally outside my type A comfort zone, but it's what I need right now, and it's getting the job done. And guess what? There are some days when I get a sentence down and I'm like, this is going to be the best writing day I've ever had. And then he wakes up and I'm like, okay, so that'll do her. So, but it's that contingency plan of, okay, I wasn't able to do it today. I'm not going to beat myself up for the rest of the week and be like, well, I wasn't able to do it. So I guess the whole rest of the week is shot, which is something I have done to myself plenty. So I think knowing yourself, not giving up, not comparing yourself to other people, their routines, these are all really useful things. And of course, if you need to hold yourself accountable, we are here to do that for you. We have editors that can do that for you at AngellaEditorial.com. And we have a class coming up this fall that can do that for you. Denise Santomauro's class on Stop Procrastinating and Start Your Novel. She will help you be accountable, and she will help you get a jump start on that novel you've been trying to write. It starts in September 12th to be exact. It's an online, affordable, intimate class, only 6 spots. So definitely head over to our website at AngellaEditorial.com/classes to take a peek and see what the class is all about. Do you want to say a little bit about the class, Denise, and let people know?
Yeah, if you're listening to this podcast / YouTube, watching this YouTube video because you're like, I don't ever find the time to write, taking the class in and of itself is going to force you to do it because I'm going to be giving you assignments and I'm going to be asking you. So I'm going to be holding you accountable. But I'm also going to be, one of the things that we will get into is going a little bit deeper into exploring why you might not be writing. Like, why are you procrastinating? Because if you can start to uncover some of that, you can actually get past that hump to actually complete the thing that you're trying to complete. And it's not easy. You might have to face some things about yourself that you don't want to face. We're also talking about goal setting and like realistic goal setting versus very ambitious goal setting, and how to tell the difference. We'll actually get into some of the elements of crafting a novel and where to start, because I think sometimes we have these amazing ideas, but then we don't really know how to get them onto the page. So we'll look at that as well. But relating back to this particular podcast in general, it's going to be, I think, a great way for people to get something moving and get into a routine or habits or figure out some elements of their schedule or their life that will allow them to actually get their novels done.
That sounds awesome. We will post the link to that class in the comments below the video at the end of all this.
And if you're scared about someone being held accountable by someone, let me say Denise is the sweetest, kindest, most supportive person, and she will be awesome.
I'd second that.
She will kick your butt in the nicest way.
It's like being held accountable by, a wolf puppy.
Yeah. Just bringing it full circle.
Bring it right around.
Just bringing it full circle.
That was some writerly business, right?
Look at that, right? I planted that seed, and you just came back and made sure that it bloomed. Like, just on it.
Foreshadow.
Well, thank you so much, everybody, for joining us for this chat. And if you want to hear more or find out more about what we are about, please just check us out on social media. We have Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, our YouTube channel, and we'll be developing a podcast shortly as well. So check out our links in the comments and let us know what your writing schedule is and what works for you. Thank you so much for joining us. Have a great day.